Ever feel like your alarm goes off and you drag yourself out of bed, but like your brain is just not it's just not there yet.
Not even close.
It's like that groggy feeling, that sleep inertia.
Yeah.
And we've been looking into something that might be able to like help with that.
Interesting.
This Vibes AI's Rise and Shine track.
Okay.
And it uses binaural beats. So for this deep dive, we're going to kind of explore the science behind all this.
Cool. Yeah, let's see if these sounds can actually do what they claim.
Right, exactly. Can they really influence your brain activity and make that whole waking up thing a bit smoother?
Yeah. Because that transition from sleep to being, like, fully awake, it can be rough.
It can be rough.
It's not just like an on-off switch, you know?
Yeah.
Your brain's actually doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
And it's not just like one constant thing going on in there. Like, it's not just one type of brain activity.
Okay.
It changes,
It changes.
like, depending on what you're doing or feeling.
Right.
You've probably heard of, like, delta waves, right?
Delta waves, yeah.
Like when you're in deep sleep.
Deep sleep.
And then there's theta waves, too.
Okay.
Like lighter sleep or when you're meditating.
Okay.
And then as you start to relax, alpha waves become more, prominent.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're, like, really alert and focused, that's when those beta waves are kind of, like, center stage.
Okay.
And there's even faster ones, gamma waves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Different levels?
Yeah, linked to, like, higher level thinking and stuff.
So basically when you wake up naturally, it's like shifting from...
It's like shifting gears, yeah, from those slower delta waves to those faster beta waves.
Okay, so it's like shifting gears.
Yeah.
And these brainwaves are kind of how we measure that.
Exactly.
So this Rise and Shine track uses something called binaural beats.
Right.
If someone's never heard of that before.
Okay, so imagine this. You're listening to two slightly different sound frequencies, okay? One in each ear.
Okay.
But your brain doesn't hear those two tones directly. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Instead, it creates this third, like, phantom beat.
A phantom beat.
Yeah. And the frequency of this beat, it's just the difference between those original two.
Okay.
So, like, for example, if this track plays a 240 hertz tone in your left ear,
go ahead,
and then a 245 hertz tone in your right ear, your brain's going to interpret that as this, like, subtle 5 hertz beat.
So it creates a whole new...
It's like this little rhythmic pulse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's created inside your head.
So that phantom beat... That's kind of the key.
Yeah, that's the key.
But how does it actually...
Right, like, how does this phantom sound actually change what's going on in your brain?
Yeah, and, like, how does it help you wake up feeling less groggy?
Okay, so this is where this idea of neural entrainment comes in.
Neural entrainment.
Yeah, and the basic idea is that your brain's natural electrical rhythms, like your brainwaves, they can actually synchronize with external rhythms like these binaural beats. So imagine like a room full of pendulum clocks, all ticking at slightly different rates. If you just leave them going for a while, you'll often see that they'll start to swing in time with each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of freaky. But neural entrainment's kind of similar. Your brainwaves, they can start to match the frequency of that binaural beat. And scientists have even observed that when people listen to these beats, their brains often produce these things called auditory steady-state responses, or ASSRs, at the same frequency as the beat.
Oh, wow.
So it's like really showing that these sounds are having a real effect on your brainwave pattern.
Okay, so this is like...
It's not just some made-up thing.
Right.
There's actual measurable stuff happening.
So let's talk about how this might relate to sleep, because...
Because that morning grogginess... It's definitely tied to how well you slept.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned a study looking at those slower 3 hertz delta frequency binaural beats, right?
Yeah, what did they discover?
Well, they found that these delta range binaural beats, they actually led to an increase in delta wave activity in the brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and even more importantly, this resulted in participants spending more time in stage 3 sleep.
Okay.
Which is that really deep restorative sleep that leaves you feeling refreshed.
Right, like you've actually slept.
Exactly. And the really important part is that
Yeah.
this deeper sleep didn't mean more disruptions during the night.
Okay.
So it wasn't like they were waking up more.
Gotcha.
They were just sleeping more deeply.
So that's huge.
It is huge because deep sleep is so crucial for feeling truly rested.
Yeah.
So anything that can enhance that without causing other problems,
Yeah.
that's definitely something worth looking into.
Right. So the key takeaway there is delta wave binaural beats, they might actually be improving your sleep.
by naturally encouraging more of that deep sleep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there was another study that looked at hormone levels.
Oh, yeah, that smaller one?
Yeah, I found that one really fascinating.
Well, it's pretty interesting.
What happened to people's hormones when they listened to these delta beats?
So this study looked at 19 people.
Okay.
And they specifically looked at how delta range binaural beats affected these key hormones that are involved in sleep.
Okay.
And they found some pretty significant changes.
Like what?
Well, a large number of the participants, they experienced a pretty substantial increase in DHEA levels.
DHEA?
Yeah, we're talking an average increase of like 68%.
Wow. 68%, that's a lot.
It is a lot, and they also saw a noticeable decrease in cortisol levels.
Cortisol?
Yeah, around 70%.
Wow.
And maybe most interestingly, they saw an average 93% increase in melatonin levels.
Wow, that's...
in a significant majority of the participants.
That's huge.
Yeah, those are pretty dramatic shifts.
Yeah, so for anyone listening who's maybe not...
Right, not as familiar with those hormones.
Yeah, can you just explain like why those changes are generally seen as good?
Yeah, so melatonin is often called the sleep hormone.
Okay.
Because it plays a really fundamental role in regulating your sleep-wake cycle.
Okay.
And promoting sleep.
Gotcha.
And then cortisol, on the other hand, that's a stress hormone.
Okay.
And if you have elevated levels of that,
yeah,
it can actually interfere with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Oh, wow.
So you want less cortisol.
Less cortisol when you're trying to sleep.
Okay, and then DHEA.
Yeah, DHEA, it has various functions in the body.
Okay.
But it's also associated with overall well-being.
Okay.
And it can contribute to a more restful sleep.
Okay.
So the fact that these delta binaural beats seem to encourage these hormones to move in a direction that supports better sleep, that's pretty compelling.
So the key takeaway there is...
delta wave binaural beats, they might be improving your sleep by optimizing these key sleep hormones. Okay, so we've got lab studies showing some promise.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just lab studies, right?
No, you're right.
There was also research with athletes.
Yeah, specifically soccer players.
Soccer players, yeah.
Yeah, another small study.
Okay.
Where these soccer players listened to binaural beats in the 2 to 8 hertz range.
2 to 8 hertz.
Yeah, and those frequencies, they fall within both the delta and theta brainwave ranges.
Okay, so both of those slower.
Yeah, the slower wave ranges.
Okay.
And the players themselves, they reported that their sleep quality improved. Yeah, they also noticed that they felt less tired in the morning.
Less tired.
Yeah, and they found it easier to wake up.
Interesting.
So it's like real-world application with people who likely have really demanding physical schedules.
Right.
So it adds another interesting perspective on the potential benefits.
Yeah, for sure. So it seems like there's some evidence suggesting that these lower frequency binaural beats could be beneficial.
Yeah, for sleep.
For sleep. But what about when you actually want to be awake and alert? It's like this whole rise and shine track.
Yeah.
It's designed to help with that.
That morning transition,
Yeah. So what about those frequencies?
Okay, so when we're talking about alertness and thinking more sharply, we're generally looking at those higher brainwave frequencies.
Okay.
Primarily in the beta range.
Beta.
Yeah, which is between 13 and 30 hertz.
13 to 30.
Yeah, and beta frequencies are indeed linked to increased concentration and mental sharpness.
No way. Yeah.
But it's important to note that at the higher end of that beta spectrum, there's also a potential connection to feeling more anxious.
Oh, okay. So...
yeah, so the specific frequency is really important.
So you don't want to trade sleepiness for anxiety.
Exactly. You don't want to go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
You want to feel awake and focused, not like you're on edge.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So have there been any studies that looked at...
yeah.
like specific beta frequencies?
Yeah, there has.
And how they might impact your ability to think and focus?
There's one study that investigated how different binaural beat frequencies affected performance on a visual spatial working memory task.
Working memory?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what they found was pretty interesting.
What did they find?
So listening to 15 hertz binaural beats actually improved participants' accuracy on this task.
Okay.
However, and this is a really important point,
Right.
lower frequencies like 5 hertz and 10 hertz actually led to a decrease in accuracy.
Oh, wow. So it's not
just any binaural beat.
Right.
It's very specific to the frequency.
Yeah, that's a huge takeaway.
It is huge. Yeah, the frequency makes all the difference.
Okay, and what about even higher frequencies?
Yeah, like gamma.
Yeah, in the gamma range.
Yeah, 30 to 50 hertz.
30 to 50. What do we know about those?
Okay, so gamma frequencies, they're generally associated with maintaining a state of arousal when you're awake.
Okay.
And they might play a role in supporting more complex cognitive functions.
Okay, so they're kind of like...
Yeah, they're kind of like the high-level thinking waves.
High level, yeah.
Yeah. So while the research on using gamma binaural beats specifically to enhance wakefulness might be less prominent, the general link between gamma waves and heightened cognitive states suggests that they could play a role in helping you feel more alert.
Okay, so we're seeing all these connections between specific frequencies and...
Yeah, and different mental states.
Yeah, and some evidence that they might affect sleep and wakefulness.
Right.
But how does this all work, like, on a fundamental level?
Right. Like, how are these binaural beats actually working in your brain?
Yeah. What are scientists saying?
So researchers are exploring a few different potential mechanisms.
Okay.
One involves the thalamus.
The thalamus.
Yeah, which is a key area in your brain for processing sensory information, including sounds.
Okay.
And the thought is that the thalamus might be playing a role in processing those binaural beat signals.
Okay.
And then, in turn, that could influence the sleep-promoting system in your brain.
Okay, so it's like...
It's like that phantom beat your brain perceives.
Yeah.
Might be processed in the central hub, which then communicates with the parts of your brain that control sleep.
Wow. So that's one way it could be working.
Yeah, that's one potential pathway.
Or are there other ways?
Yeah, another one involves what's called the ascending arousal system.
The ascending arousal system.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It is.
But it's basically a network of different brain regions that controls how awake or sleepy you feel.
So it's like the master controller.
It's like the control center for sleep and wakefulness.
Okay.
And it includes different parts of your brain, like your brainstem, your thalamus, your hypothalamus, and even the outer layer of your brain, the cortex.
So it's a whole...
Yeah, it's a whole network.
Network.
And the idea is that binaural beats might modulate the activity of the system.
Okay.
So by subtly affecting this network, the binaural beats could be helping to shift you towards a more awake state.
So it's gently adjusting.
Yeah, gently nudging things in the right direction.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's also this idea of gradually shifting frequencies.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is especially relevant.
Yeah, for waking up.
Yeah, for waking up and minimizing that grogginess.
Exactly. So think about a sudden jarring alarm clock.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
the worst.
It's the worst. It can actually trigger a stress response.
Yeah.
And it can actually make that sleep inertia worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's counterproductive.
It can be.
So these binaural beats.
Yeah, they offer a much gentler approach.
Okay.
So by starting with frequencies in the delta or theta range, which are dominant when you're asleep, and then slowly shifting towards those beta frequencies.
Okay.
It's like easing your brain into the day.
Instead of shocking it awake.
Exactly. Yeah. Much more pleasant way to wake up.
And then there's one more idea that was really interesting. That maybe they're not directly forcing your brain waves.
Right.
To match the frequency.
Yeah.
But they might be doing something else.
Yeah, so some researchers suggest that instead of directly entraining your brain waves to oscillate at that exact frequency, the beats might instead be influencing what's called cross-frequency coupling.
Cross-frequency coupling.
Yeah, or the functional connectivity between different brain regions.
Okay, so they're like
affecting how different parts of your brain are talking to each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, rather than just driving that overall rhythm.
So it's more about the communication.
It's like fine-tuning the communication.
Okay, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a more nuanced way of thinking about how they could be working.
So it's a complex picture.
It is.
With lots of potential ways that these sounds could be influencing your brain.
Right, and potentially helping you wake up more smoothly.
Right, and as with any research,
yeah,
it's important to consider the limitation. What are some of the caveats when it comes to using these binaural beats?
Okay, well, one of the first things to remember is that how you respond to binaural beats can vary quite a bit from person to person.
Okay.
So what works well for one person might not do much for someone else.
Right, so it's not a one-size-fits-all.
It's not a guaranteed thing.
Right, okay.
Because there are probably differences in how people perceive and process these sounds.
Okay.
And just natural variations in their brain activity.
Right, we're all different.
We are, yeah.
So what about the research itself?
Okay, so the research on binaural beats, it's still developing.
Okay.
And there are some differences across the studies.
Okay.
Like the way they set up the experiments.
Yeah.
The exact frequencies they tested.
Okay.
How they measured the results.
Gotcha.
All that can vary.
So it makes it
hard to draw really firm conclusions.
Okay.
From all the research that's been done.
And there's also the placebo effect, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like just believing something will work can sometimes lead to positive results.
Absolutely. And that's something that's really hard to control for in this type of research.
And some researchers feel like the evidence supporting the benefits of binaural beats isn't fully conclusive.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about why some experts might feel that way?
So while there are definitely some promising findings suggesting potential benefits, some people in the scientific community argue that we need more rigorous research, including larger studies with more standardized methods.
So more consistency.
Yeah, more consistency.
Across the board.
Yeah, to really establish a strong link between binaural beats and improvements in sleep or cognitive function. And they might point to the smaller number of participants in some studies. Or just the need for more consistency in how these studies are conducted.
So basically, more research is needed.
Yeah, more research is always good.
Okay, so Vibes AI, they're actually conducting their own research. And they're encouraging listeners to participate by taking surveys.
That's a great idea.
What's that all about?
So by collecting data from a lot of listeners in a real-world setting, Vibes, AI can get more information about how people are actually experiencing their track.
Right.
So these surveys that you can take before and after listening, they can provide some really valuable insights into the subjective effects of the binaural beats. And it can contribute to a better understanding of the potential benefits of sound therapy in general.
So it's a way to get a broader picture.
Exactly, It's a way to see how this stuff works in the real world.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's good that they also recommend
always
talking to a healthcare professional.
Absolutely, It's always a good idea.
Before starting any new.
Especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
Right.
Or if you're considering using binaural beats to address a specific issue.
Okay, so to bring it all together, what's the main takeaway from all this?
Okay, so the current understanding suggests that binaural beats, they do show potential as a non-drug approach to possibly influence brain activity. And there's evidence that specific frequencies are associated with different mental states. And that listening to these beats might have some positive effects on your sleep quality. The regulation of hormones related to sleep. And even some aspects of cognitive function.
So there's some promising stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely something there.
Right.
But more research is still needed to really understand how effective they are. And to determine the best frequencies and methods for different outcomes. And your individual response might vary. And binaural beats should probably be seen as something that could complement other healthy habits. Rather than a standalone fix for sleep or cognitive challenges.
Right, so it's not a magic bullet.
Not a magic bullet, no.
So there's definitely something interesting happening here. And the research is ongoing.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see where this research goes.
It seems like our brains are more responsive to these subtle sound cues than we realized.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
What other subtle sonic nuances might be discovered that could help us fine-tune our mental states and really optimize our daily lives.
Like personalized sound-based interventions.
Exactly. Yeah, that could be the future.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Lots to think about.
Lots to think about.